today I wanted to actually talk about a word that you've probably heard before, and you've probably done it to yourself and just didn't realize it. And that word is self-sabotage. The word sabotage means, according to Google, to deliberately destroy, damage, or obstruct. It's the word deliberately for me. I think subconsciously we tend to do things that we are completely unaware of because of a paradigm that exists in our brains and in our minds. And I think that's why a lot of people go to therapy, is because they don't realize some of the things that they continually do and habitually do because it's so ingrained in them. And this word, self-sabotage, is something that I've been doing for years, but didn't even realize that I was doing it. If you probably remember, in one of my previous videos, I talked about the fact that whenever I tend to go back into pornography or I have relapses, it's usually when I'm on a high, like when I've finally gained so much time in between each relapse. The withdrawals start to go away, my laughter starts to come back, my anxiety starts to disappear. Those consequently are the times that I actually will relapse and go back into porn. I didn't realize that I was actually doing it because most people relapse when they're stressed, when they've had a hard day at work, when they are struggling in their marriage or their relationships. But that's not when I do it. And I know that it's different for everybody. But I've realized that I did it when I finally gained the freedom that I've been praying for, that I've been waiting for, that I have been just going through those days and those weeks through hell fighting for. Those are the times that I actually go back into pornography. And I didn't realize it until I looked up the word self-sabotage. Sabotaging something looks different for everybody. And for me, it looks like exactly what the definition says. You deliberately damage an opportunity or something like a blessing that you've prayed for because you don't feel like you're worthy when you actually receive that blessing. Just for pornography, for instance, I've been addicted for 16 years and it has just become a way of life for me. It's the only thing that I've gotten to know as part of a relationship because I've never had a single adult relationship in my life. So this was the closest thing that I had to one, and it was something that I bonded with, something that I made life with, and I didn't really know anything outside of that. Even though it hurt me, even though it deliberately used and abused me and wrecked my life, it was familiar to me. So it was the only thing that I had as far as comfort when it came to a relationship, even though the relationship was digital. It was with my device. Being in that relationship with pornography was very disruptive to my life and just flat out dysfunctional. But it's crazy how accustomed we get to dysfunction and it just becomes normalcy for us. So throughout this 16 years, almost 2 decades of dropping the ball, picking it back up again, surrendering it to God, and then picking it back up at the cross over and over again, it was like a roller coaster for me. When I look back over those last 16 years, that's when I realized just a few months ago that I was sabotaging my freedom every time I finally gained the freedom that I was looking for. I think a lot of it is rooted in fear because I didn't realize that I hadn't lived like in a state of happiness for an extended period of time in order to be comfortable with it. Like actually feeling liberated from this thing and feeling like I finally have reached the top of this mountain that I've been just scratching and trying to get to. I hadn't lived there for a consistent period of time in order for it to just be normal for me. The dysfunction was normal for me, which is why I just kept going back to it, because I was just like, I was afraid of the freedom that was to be gained, and I didn't think that I could actually live that freedom out for the rest of my life. And in the back of my mind, whenever I would feel like I was on cloud 9 or on top of the mountain, I was always thinking, well, surely this can't last. surely the ball is going to drop and the clock is going to strike midnight and the carriage is going to turn into a pumpkin right before me. So I might as well ruin it myself before something else comes along subconsciously thinking that it was going to knock me off my high horse. So I decided to self-sabotage my own freedom because I was afraid of freedom. Can you believe that? And that's all we want in life, is to be free from burdens, to be free from our struggle, to be free from relationships that have hurt us, that have abused us. But I think we don't realize that we're actually ruining it ourselves along the way. My questions to you is, when was the last time you felt happy? When was the last time you felt an immense amount of joy, like you was on cloud nine? And how long did it last? Did you ruin it? Or did life come by and knock you off your high horse? I think you'd be surprised if you look back at those times where you prayed for a blessing or an opportunity on your knees and you were begging God to free you from something, but when you got it, you squandered it and you went back to filth. You went back to your own vomit. You'll be surprised at how much we do it to ourselves. Life doesn't knock us down most of the time. I think it's a subconscious thing that we feel like we don't deserve happiness. We feel like because all the mistakes that we've made and the sins that we've committed, we are not worthy to be liberated from a bondage because we're not familiar with that freedom. I think that not only is it sad, but more people do this without even realizing it. But once you have that revelation, once you realize that you're doing it, that's the first step to change. And my advice is, next time you feel that happiness and you feel that joy, ride that wave for as long as you can and become comfortable with that feeling of freedom and that feeling of joy, that feeling of laughter, so that way it can become your new normal. I think in society and in most people's lives on this earth, we are accustomed to dysfunction. We're accustomed to chaos. We've become so desensitized to chaos that it just become a part of our life, and we almost attract it more and more because we feel like that's what we're worth. Our self-worth is the same thing as the standards that we put on ourselves. Your standards equal what you feel about yourself, what you feel that you're worth, what you feel that your value is. That's what your standard is. And most of our standards is dysfunction, not freedom. I can think of the last time that I actually laughed genuinely. It's been months. I think the last time that I did was in October. And those weeks leading up to that laughter that was from my stomach, from my gut, from my personality was pure hell for me. But I remember looking out the window and just feeling it bubble up inside of my stomach. And it had been so long since I had felt that. I literally thought in the forefront of my mind, what am I going to do with this? This is new for me. This is uncomfortable. This laughter that I haven't felt in I don't know how long is uncomfortable for me. So guess what I did? That same night, I relapsed. Went back into porn, went back into an addiction that swallows my personality, that chokes out the talents and the gifts and the creativity that God has given me, because that was something that was familiar with me. I had made life with that. I didn't make life with joy. I didn't make life with happiness. I didn't ride that wave for as long as I knew that I could. That is wild to me. Like, I just had that revelation a few months ago, and I was like, next time I feel that, there's gonna be no stopping me. And that's what I want y'all to realize too. Next time you feel that joy, that happiness, and you get that blessing that you prayed for, walk in it, feel it, live in it, breathe in it, and let it consume you until it becomes familiar to you, until it becomes your way of life. Let that be your new normal. Let that be your new standard, because you're worth it. Anyways, that was my thoughts of the day. The thought of the week is raise your standards up. We have been living low. Most of us have been living low, whether we can admit it or not. Raise your standards up and realize that you are worthy to be happy, that you are worthy to be free. I know that I'm not the only one that thinks that I don't deserve to be happy, or that, you fear that eventually the ball is going to drop. We can't live in that state of mind. It's disruptive and it's damaging to our psyche. My advice and my encouragement is that next time you get what you pray for, keep it. Don't squander it. That's my word of the day. I always do these videos before I eat because I feel like it clears my mind to fast before I do it. But now I'm about to go eat because I'm hungry. So I'm gonna see y'all later.